guys, I can see a few people coming on. So if you want to say hi in the chat box and type any comments there, love to see you all and see who's here, and we'll get started soon. We'll just wait a couple minutes just to give people a chance to come on, so you can see a few people coming on now. Hi Basil, I can see you there. I hope everybody's had a good day, a good start to the week. It's been busy for me. We're looking at moving house, so working and moving, and yeah, it's a busy time, but it's good. All right, we might look at getting started soon. Got a few people here, so we'll get started, and as people come in, they can join. But, yeah. Thank you for those that are here, and thank you to Amanda and Chris for jumping on with us as well and coming to have a chat. So we have Amanda from Onassis Developments, and she's going to have a bit of a chat with us tonight about developments and where she sort of started from and how you can get started. And it doesn't matter where you're at in your journey with real estate and development and things. She's got an absolute wealth of knowledge to help a huge broad range of people, no matter where you're at. And we've got Chris here to talk all things tax depreciation. So just to give us a bit of an overview of, how and why we would do it, and how that can affect our investment and the way that we can save a bit of money, which is, that's what it's all about, is building the investments. So Liana and Brenton are also here tonight, and they're here sort of as support, and Liana's going to help us with the chat group. So if you've got any questions, guys, as the night goes on, just pop them in the chat group. We'll try to get to a few questions after each person's sort of spoken. If we can't answer them all tonight, we'll absolutely get back to you. So yeah, in the chat, pop up any questions, and Liana will keep an eye on that and let us know. So basically, I'm going to have a bit of a chat first, and I'm going to talk a little bit about different ways that you can get into the property market, and then we'll lead into Amanda and development, and then finish off with Chris, and just a couple of other notes at the end. So I want to talk to you about 3 different ways that you can get into the property market tonight. And we're going to talk a little bit about positively geared, negatively geared, and developments. So they're 3 very different ways to invest in property. So let's start off with positively geared properties. Now, you've probably heard a little bit about these different ways to invest. So positively geared is basically buying a property in an area where the land and the housing is a little bit cheaper. Usually it's in the outer suburbs and further away from the CBD. And basically the idea of it is that the rent covers the bills and covers the bills that come in. It covers the mortgage, it covers council rates and all those things. So you don't have any out-of-pocket expenses. And essentially the rent that's coming in is paying off the mortgage over time. Now, as with most property investments, not all, but most, it is a long-term goal. So it's not something that you're going to make money in within, a couple of years. It's something that you are looking at a 20 to 30 year term to pay the loan off completely and reap the benefits at the end. So if you pay, $300,000 for a house, 20, 30 years later, you're hoping to have that paid off without having to put any extra money in, except for maybe a few bits and pieces with maintenance and things. And having that basically right at the end. So having that $300,000 to then, even if it hasn't appreciated much in value, you've still got that $300,000 because it's been able to be paid off. So that's one way to do it, and there's been quite a lot of people who have had success with that. So not just buying one, but over time, once they've paid a certain amount off of one of their loans, they buy another. So if you've got 3 or 4 of these properties, by the end of that time, you're looking, depending on when you start, you might be looking at retirement stage, and you've got a little nest egg there of around that $1 million mark, depending on what you've bought and how much it's worth at the end. Obviously, there's some capital gains taxes and things like that associated there if you do make money, but the goal isn't for the property to appreciate. That is to do with negatively gearing. So let's jump into that one as well. So negatively gearing is where you are looking for the property and the land in particular to appreciate in value. So the land is the key thing that you are looking for. So you want land that is going to appreciate in value over time as quickly as possible and as much as possible over time. And that's likely to be closer into the CBD suburbs, and just typically they tend to appreciate quicker. And basically your goal isn't necessarily to pay off the loan. You are certainly going to be paying off the interest and maybe some of the principal, but the idea is that this property is going to appreciate in value, and so when you go to sell it, you make money and you make a profit on what you bought it for, and anything you've paid off of the loan is back into your pocket once it's sold. So that's sort of the idea there. Again, it's a long-term investment. It's not something that you're going to make money on overnight, and there's really, when somebody says it's a get-rich-quick scheme, a lot of the times it's not. So yeah, these couple of ways are definitely long-term investments, and you've got to sort of, I suppose, look for the right property. And if you are looking at something like that, whether it's positive or negative, more than happy for you to give us a call. We can chat further about different suburbs, different places, some of the things that we've been seeing lately. And give you a bit more of an idea on specifics. Don't really have time to go into all of that tonight, but yeah, we'd love to have a chat with you about some of the more specifics of that type of investment. Moving on to a very different way of investing is obviously property development. So buying either a block of land or an old home that is just a knockdown. Obviously, it needs to be bought at the right price. So you're going to then look at building a couple on this one block of land that you buy, and subdividing and moving on. And that is sort of, I suppose, in regards to the other two that we were talking about, a shorter term goal, but it's got to be done right. And I suppose sorry.
Oh, that's where Amanda's going to tell us all about it.
Yeah, that's where Amanda's going to tell us all about it in a minute, and give us the lowdown on that side of things. So I'm not going to go too much more into it because Amanda's going to cover that side of things thoroughly with us tonight. I suppose life changes as well all the time, so I think it's a good idea to have a bit of an understanding of the different ways to develop, because you might be thrown a piece of land, if you're lucky enough, via inheritance or something like that, and knowing the different ways that you can use it and use it to your advantage is really important. So it might not be something that you can necessarily develop on, or it might be something that does need to be, is more ideally to be negative or positive geared. So having an understanding of all of those things. And I suppose I'll sort of finish a bit of my talk on that there's risk in everything, I suppose, in life, but I suppose bringing in the proper or the professionals that know the way in all the different areas, because there are definitely different areas. So tonight we can't give you financial advice because that's not our area of expertise. Property is. So that's where you need an accountant, and you might need someone like Amanda to help us, help you out with the development process side of things and educating you in that. I suppose that's where you lower your risk as you bring in some of the professionals to help you out, to understand how to do it, when to do it, why to do it, and really learn as you go. And that definitely sets you up for the long term and future investments and future goals. So sort of finishing up there, if there's any questions that have popped up, if not, we'll keep going.
No, all good.
So we'll throw it over to Amanda. So Amanda, sorry. Amanda is from Onassis Developments, but she also created Onassis Developments. So she's done this on the side as a mum and with a family, and she started basically with her own developments and found some amazing success, which she's going to tell us a bit more about, and built things from there. And now she is in a space where she wants to help you guys and help other people to find the same success that she has by basically breaking it down and giving you guys some amazing steps to follow. So thank you so much, Amanda, for being here. I know everybody's going to get some great tips and information from you now, so I'll leave it over to you.
Excellent, great, thank you. Can everyone see me on the screen, or do you have to pin me to be visible? You can all hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So thanks everyone for having me today, and Jacqui and the IRental team. I'm hoping you can all hear me. I am at the beach, but I'm not quite at a tropical beach like I am behind me. This is a nice virtual background hiding in the little room that I'm in. I'm at the York Peninsula. It's school holidays here, and we come down here and time slows down, which is amazing. So that's where I'm coming to. So I'm hoping that the connectivity over here is okay. Sometimes it drops in and out, but hoping you can all hear me, and certainly let me know in the chat box if you have any issues hearing me. So as Jacqui mentioned, I am CEO of my own property development company called Onassis Developments. And Onassis Developments business creates quality, affordable housing in Adelaide. And I'll explore that more as we go along. I'm about to show you some of the stuff that we're doing. And after, I think, gosh, when I started about 2013, so I've got, as Jacqui mentioned, I've got 3 new girls, now 10, 11 and 12-year-old. So I started this business when I had 3 children under 3. And over the last few years, I've certainly grown my business, and I'll talk through some numbers very shortly too. And after years of doing development and getting a few runs on the board, I had a number of people asking me how I've done property development and whether I could help them. And now, after getting a number of runs on the board with my business, I now feel like I'm ready to start sharing and educating other people as to the journey that I've taken and how I have developed property. And so that led me to creating the Rising Star Developer Program, which I actually launched early this year. And it started off as a way for me to create a community of people who love property and want to use property development as a way of wealth creation, but also a lifestyle creation as well. So I wanted to create through Facebook, created a Facebook community of really positive, inspiring people where I share my property journey and what I'm doing, both from a lifestyle perspective, but also how I've started and how I've grown the business, and even down to the projects that I do right now. And that's really then led to a number of people joining the program now, and really learning hands-on in terms of how I do my business. So, and I'll jump into that a bit more detail. I'm probably running ahead of myself. What I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen because I've got some great content to show you, and it probably saves you looking at the beach behind me and my little face. But bear with me. I'm going to share my screen and talk through.
Yes, you're making us all jealous that we're not at the beach.
Oh, look, it's really amazing here. Time slows down because we're a particular place. I mean, there's no shops, anything. So, the kids free range, and the day's gone down, which is an amazing place to be. So as I mentioned before, Onassis Developments is my smaller scale property development business. So when I say small scale, property development can really bring up mixed views. It can be, you can think of simple 1 into 2 developments, or you can think of massive high rises. So my business is really focused on creating quality affordable housing in South Australia. So my business focuses on projects between 2 to 8 houses on a block. Excuse me. So I'm just going on from, I'm not sure if you can see me there. So Massive Developments is my actual development business where I'm in the trenches doing projects. And then Rising Star is my education business where I'm teaching people how to do property development. So let me explain in terms of my journey. So in the last, I think I started about 2013. So in that time, I've created 61 new homes across 14 projects. And the total value of all these projects is worth $28 million. And it actually blows me away stopping and looking at what I've actually done in the last few years. You sort of you run 100 miles ahead and then you don't really stop and go, okay, wow, I've actually created these homes and all these new homes for people. Most of them are first-time buyers, a lot of investors. And so it's lovely to think that in creating new homes for people to live in and create memories as well. And look, my business, as a result of that, has created me 7-figure profits. So from a lifestyle perspective, I run this business during school hours, but the financial impact it's had on our family has been incredible. So I typically run 4 to 6 projects at any one time, and I'm banking 6-figure profits every single year, and I work school hours. So prior to starting up the Rising Star developer, I was probably working 10 to 15 hours. Why I decided to start up another whole business to double that is beyond me. But no, I'm really loving the fact that I'm now being able to help other people and help them on their journey to hopefully create some similar successes. And even not even necessarily what I've done, even just making small lump sum profits really does have a big impact on your life. And I'll talk through what my very first project did for me. So yeah, in my development business and asset developments, here's just a snapshot of a few of my projects that I've done around the place. So I typically get older blocks, older houses on larger blocks, and then put multiple houses on them. So I really focus on creating quality, affordable housing within a 12K radius of the CBD. And that enables me, if you think of property in the form of a triangle. At the top of the triangle, you have your multi-million-dollar houses, and there's only really a small bunch of people who can afford those properties. And as you go down, you'll go to the 1.2 to 800,000, and then you go the 800,000 to 600,000. And my sweet spot is the bottom of the triangle, which is the $500,000 below, and that's where the majority of the population actually sit, because not everyone's fortunate enough to be able to, have houses in the top of the triangle. And from a business perspective, it really does mean it's a great area to be able to create product, to sell product. It's a product that's in most demand in an economy where things, are up and down. People that are in the middle of the triangle then fall down to the bottom of the triangle. So it is really a sector of the market that is protected to an extent of the market ups and downs. And that's one of the reasons why I focused my business in that area. So really quality housing, trying to create as great a quality product as I can do within a particular budget where I can sell at an affordable price. So they're just a handful of my projects that I've done over the years. So in terms of my very first project, and I actually love talking about this project because my very first project was actually a house. It had a big house on it. It was on about 1,100 square metres. It was in Parkholme in South Australia. And I'd been speaking to the owner, and they wanted to stay on the front. They wanted to keep their house, and I was going to just do a simple hammerhead in the backyard. And I had an arrangement with them that if I could fit one in the backyard, I'd give them a price of X, and if I could get 2 in the backyard, I'd give them a price of Y. In the end, unfortunately, during that time, I'd gone to council. They said no for 2. I was going to put 1 in the back. We were actually the week away from handing over the money and taking the backyard. And unfortunately, the man had a heart attack and passed away. And I remember his wife calling me, because I'd only spoken to him on the Monday, and his wife called me on the Thursday and said, "Oh, look, I saw you spoke to my husband." And I said, yeah, how's he going? She said, "Well, actually, he had a heart attack and passed away." And I remember I was in Big W. I had my kids running around the toy aisle, and my heart just absolutely sunk. And I felt because I'd met both of them, the husband and wife, and had all these conversations with them. And she was an incredible woman, just the strength that she had, given she was dealing with such hardship. She said to me, look, you know, I can't stay here anymore. This house had so many memories. It gives me tingles just thinking about it. She said, you know, can you please just take this whole site? Because we'd already discussed a value if I took the whole site, and then a value if you got 2 in the back, and a value of 1 in the back. They said, can you please just, we know the price, can you take this whole site? So I ended up going from it was a win for her, but it ended up going from a simple hammerhead development into a 5-site project for my very first development. And it completely blew my mind. So for me, the opportunity was incredible. And so it went from a project that could potentially have banked me $130,000 to end up banking me this very first project, $447,000, my very first development. So just have a think about what banking that sort of money does in terms of your financial landscape. This one project took a massive chunk out of my mortgage. We had a nice big fat mortgage, and I completed this project within 12 months. While I was doing this, so the front 2 houses are 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, single garage. And at the back were 3 2-bedrooms, 1 bathroom houses, all below, the back one sold below 400,000, the front one sold in the mid-4s. We sold them all off the plan. And I was in and out of this project in the end within 12 months. So it was a win for the lady who got to move on with her life, and she was actually going to move to Asia and work with elephants. It's something she'd always really wanted to do, so she could take the money and go and do something else with her life, to deal with whatever she was dealing with. And then this is my first development. But while I was doing this, I then found my next development. So I ran my second development in parallel. I found this about 2 months after everything happened with securing that site. I found this, and so this ended up being a 3-row project right around the corner from the first one in Morphettville. So these are 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, single garages. I sold these all off the plan, and I actually settled these 2 months after my first project. So I banked $447,000 in my first project and $183,000 in my second project. So together, in 1 year, I banked over $650,000 through 2 developments. Like that would have taken me years and years to earn that sort of money. I was working part-time prior to doing this, and I managed to pay off, completely clear our mortgage, and also take our family on a holiday to Disneyland. It was my 40th and my 10-year wedding anniversary, and these projects banked. And we took our kids to Disneyland and just on these 2 projects. And since then, it gave me the confidence and the ability to be able to then ramp up my business. And I've got to say, since making that decision to go into property development, it's been completely life-changing, not just from a financial perspective, but once these projects started banking, I then left my job and started doing property development during school hours. I took my kids out of childcare, out of OSH. I could now pick them up out of school. The impact and the financial impact was incredible, but that's nothing compared to the lifestyle impact it had on us. No mortgage. I was able to be at home, pick my kids up from school, work during the day on my business, and be there for them after school, take them to school sports, go away on a holiday every single year overseas. And that's the amazing thing, that having that access to money and the weight of financial stress being lifted, that is
absolutely life-changing for sure. Yeah.
It is. And I had no previous background in property development. I learnt this as I was going along. I actually invested in myself and learnt from other people who had done this.
I think that's what makes it so good as well, is that you're not coming in as someone who's done it for years and years and come from this massive background of property. It shows that anyone that wants to do it and has a drive to do it can do it. So it's really good to hear that side of it as well.
Yeah, and look, I'm an everyday mum. I still, like every other family with, parents with a young family, it's chaos at home in the mornings and after school, and life is busy anyway. But to be able to have the choice and how I spend my time during the day and how I spend it after school, and that's really why this business is so incredible. And I guess also just to share with you, I did those 2 projects with none of my own money. I had money partners and investors involved in that, and even now I don't use any of my own money for any of my projects. I have investors and joint venture partners and the bank, and so, you know, I've certainly created a business. And look, most of these projects now I rinse and repeat, do the same thing over and over again, and it's really streamlined, and that's the process that I'm teaching to my students. So I mean, just think about your own life. I mean, imagine what a 650k injection would do to your life in 1 year. It really does change your financial landscape and the choices that you have available to you. So yeah, just and I guess the beauty of this as well, I've certainly ramped up now because it's my main business and do 4 to 6 projects, but you can just do one of these projects on the side of your current job, and you don't have to scale up into a business like I've created. You can still, if you love your job, keep doing your job and just do this as a side gig, and you'll be able to top up your income, make some chunks off, take some chunks of your mortgage, help pay for school fees, take your kids on holidays. That's the brilliant thing that property development can do for you, once you know how to do it as well. So, I mean, so going on from that, after people around me seeing the success that I was having, and, you know, I'm a great believer in sharing the knowledge and my experience that I have. I believe there's plenty of opportunity out there for everyone. And that really did lead me on to, you know, creating the Rising Star community. So I really wanted to create, as I mentioned before, a positive and inspiring community of people who love property, and to bring people together that are willing to share and learn and grow. And that's really the basis behind the Rising Star Developer that I've created. So if you love property as much as I do and want to be included or learn more about property development, I have created a Facebook page. The first Facebook page is my Amanda McEwin at Rising Star Developer. I'll put this link in the chat group if you want to go in there. Certainly like my page, and there's so much knowledge on there that I've shared, and every week I'm posting their content around property and life and things like that. So if that's an open group, so anything you post and respond, you know, all your friends in your Facebook group can see. And that really then drove me to creating the Rising Star Tribe, which is a closed group. So if you want to ask questions and not have everyone in your Facebook community seeing what you're posting, then feel free to join. It's a free Facebook group called the Rising Star Developer Tribe. And that's where also I'm sharing a bit more information, a bit more detail about property as well. So certainly provide the links there, and I'd love to see anybody that's interested to join that if you're interested in development. And I can certainly send you the link after this call. So I understand that a lot of people on this call are property investors. So for those of you who are property investors, you know, how does purchasing property wholesale sound to you? Most of us buy property by looking on traditionalrealestate.com and buying at retail. But another amazing thing about property development is you can actually create your own property portfolio as well. So, and that's creating your property via wholesale rather than retail. So let me just talk you through this concept in a bit more detail. So picture this: say that we work together, and I step you through how in your spare time you can acquire a property that is zoned for a 4-site development. This is actually one of my old sites in Paradise that I put 4 on. So say I step you through how to bring that development through council, and how you put your team together, and how you project manage that development, and how you complete that project in the shortest possible time while managing every single risk along the way. There's always risk, as Jacqui mentioned before. There's certainly strategies that you can put in place to try and manage and mitigate that risk. So say I stepped you through how to fund that project, and how to pre-sell those new homes so that development can fund itself. And this is one of my projects in Ross Trevor that's just finished recently. The last one's settling next week, actually. So say that I show you how to do the feasibility, and say your 4-site is generating a $360,000 profit upon completion. So just have a think about that. Is that worth your spare time? And does that begin to create the wealth that you're looking for? Because let's be honest, we're all here trying to, if you're looking at using property as a wealth creation vehicle, we all want to create wealth out of that. And we want to create it in the shortest possible time. And property development, I don't know of it. I've bought property retail. I don't know of a quicker way of creating wealth. And I've tried buy and hold, renovations. I looked into Airbnb. I've looked into a lot of different property strategies, and I've always come back to development time and time again in terms of the speed to creating wealth. And it's not a get-rich-quick scheme, because it still takes 12 to 18 months, but it's a hell of a lot shorter than waiting 10 to 12 years to be able to create the wealth, because you actually know the wealth you're going to create based on doing your numbers up front. Whereas when we buy and hold, we don't necessarily know what the value is going to be in 10 years. We can hope it's going to double, but you don't have the same visibility of what the market's going to do in that time. So say you do your foresight, and you know, something that was passed on to me early on is, and something that I want to share with you is real wealth is really created by your holding. So if holding property is your wealth creation strategy, then developing your projects is one of the certainly the fastest way of doing that. So your foresight that we've created, you sell 3, pay down the debt, and you keep the 4th one. You roll over your profit into the 4th one. So you may have a small residual amount of debt, but you're basically banking the profit, and that's, instead of actually realizing that profit, it's going to save you a hell of a lot of tax, because you're not actually banking the profit, and that's not tax advice. You can see your accountant for that. But you roll over your profit into your last property, and then you bank your rental income. So you're only going to have a small amount of residual debt, if any, and then all the rental income that comes in, you either use that to offset the residual debt, or you bank that and use that to fund your own lifestyle costs. So think about if, you know, if you did that, say, one every couple of years, or one a year. So by the time you did 4 projects, and say you have a similar sort of profit, $200,000 to $400,000 profit, and you're generating $2,000 per month rental income times 4 projects, you're banking $8,000 per month, $96,000 a year. You can do that within 5 years by doing at least 4 developments. Then you're really starting to leverage the wealth. So you take out the equity, do another development, and that's how you end up getting your properties wholesale, and then you bank the rental income, and that really starts to create the cash flow to be able to fund your lifestyle and certainly create your wealth with the holdings as well. So that's just a very high level overview about, you know, one particular strategy of development, creating wholesale property. And that's how you can create wholesale property. So my Rising Star Development educational program is really designed to teach people from a very simplistic point of view, if you've never developed property, right up to those who understand property and do development up to expert level. So it's tailored to scale as you scale with your own knowledge as well. And then I've simplified everything into easy to follow online modules, so that you know the exact model that I'm using in my projects today is what I'm teaching to other people. So it enables you to use the exact model that I use. And yeah, it's achievable, profitable, get in, get out, smaller type property developments that's really, really lucrative. And look, I know this can be a very different paradigm to traditional way of thinking, and banks don't always tell you about this, because banks make money when you have loans with them, because then you pay interest, and they don't want you to pay out debts really quickly. So this is a strategy, is something that traditional banks don't share with you. Is people like myself who've worked it out and made money and worked out how to actually leverage property to create wealth, but also create income as well. So just in terms of you know, myself, I learning from somebody else who's achieved what I'd wanted to achieve, and that's really I was able to fast track my own experience and my own business by learning about what the mistakes other people have made, and to how to do things from somebody who's already achieving what I wanted to achieve. And that's really also the crux behind the Rising Star Developer as well. So helping people fast track their wealth creation through leveraging my knowledge and my experience as well. So I teach everything from choosing the right projects, the right team, working with councils, how to design, specifications, how you sell your projects. Everything is stepped outside, laid out in front of you, and then I'm there. I'm supporting you, not I don't have a team of people supporting you, and I'm just a person at the front. It's actually me sharing my experiences and helping people to really fast track their own wealth creation. So I'm probably conscious that I've really flown ahead and may have chewed up a fair amount of time. So I want to thank you very much for listening to me. I've got a few things to give away to you. So certainly if you're keen to join the Facebook groups, I'll put the links in the chat box. So otherwise, you might get a copy of this. So go look me up, Amanda McEwin, in Facebook and the Rising Star Developer Tribe. Click on there, like my page, and hopefully you get a wealth of information out of that. Also, I've created a new financial year, a 2021 financial year plan, which is really a good way to reset yourself and have a think about what you want to achieve in this financial year from a goals and a strategy point of view. So if you want a copy for that, I'll send a link and you can just go to the link, download it, and hopefully that's also of value. Another thing that I've created, if you want to know more about property development, I've actually got a 45-minute webinar, which really goes into a lot more detail than I've covered today around property development, how I find deals, and share with you a bit more insight into property development. So I'll put a link there, and that will take you to the downloadable and also access this webinar as well. So yeah, certainly if you want to learn more about property development, love to share some of my knowledge with you, and thank you so much for your time. Any questions, more than happy to answer them, and I'll hand over back to Jacqui.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, Amanda. That was amazing. I know you certainly have intrigued me into the idea of developing and maybe looking into something in the future. So yeah, some really great information, and if you can drop a couple of those links into the chat group, that'd be great. But if anybody isn't able to copy them out of there, please let me or Brenton or even Liana know via email or give us a call, and we'll definitely put you in contact with Amanda to get those things and email them through even. Don't think we've got any questions at this stage, but that's cool. So there, Amanda's just popped them into the chat group if you want to copy them out, guys. Thank you so much. Chris, it's going to be over to you now. So Chris is here today to educate us a bit about the importance of property tax depreciation and explain a little bit about the difference depreciation can make to our investments and the tax side of things. So thanks, Chris.
Thank you. Yeah, no, it's all about that up there, maximising the cash return. So I'm going to try to share my screen, and hopefully I'm going to do better at this time than I did last time. Here we go. I actually hit the share button this time. That's a step in the right direction. So hopefully you can all see a couple of happy investors there.
Yeah, it looks good.
Sorry?
No, yeah, I can see it all. It looks good.
That's good.
Okay, great. Yes, they're looking at their computer. They can see their depreciation results, and they're just loving it there. So, yeah, I'm with BMT. We're a quantity surveying firm. We do tax depreciation schedules. That's pretty much the one thing we do. Quantity surveyors, we are construction management professionals, but the reason we estimate construction costs for a depreciation schedule is to get a little bit of cash flow for the property. We like to call it hidden cash flow because it's there lurking in just about every property. And it's a deduction that the ATO sees as being available to represent the imagined wear and tear on your property. So just like if you owned your own, you owned a car and you use that for business purposes, then you would be able to enter its kilometres, the type of car, etc. And that's a tax deduction for the wear and tear. This is a little bit different. There are a lot more eligibility rules. Things in your house will depreciate differently. And the ATO says that where a construction cost needs to be estimated or even apportioned within larger costs, you need a quantity surveyor to do that. And that's where we come in. So we'll just cover very briefly, and I could go into a lot of detail on this, but I won't. We'll cover very briefly that there are two types of depreciation. And the main one is at the top, and it's the building allowance. So it will depreciate for 40 years on a residential property for any construction that was done after 1987. And it could be a property built after then, or it could be a 100-year-old property that has had some substantial renovation or an extension done to it. So the structural claim there is available whether you've done it, previous owners have done it, as long as it was after 1987. So we're looking at properties built after then or updated substantially since then. The other part is plant and equipment, and most people would more commonly call this fixtures and fittings. It's things like floor coverings, carpet, floating timber, vinyl, curtains and blinds on your windows, appliances, everything from your oven to your hot water system, air conditioners, etc. Now, the rules on these changed a couple of years ago, and you can now only depreciate those things if they are in a new property that's an investment from new, or say if you buy an older one or you're living in a place and then move out and make it an investment. If you put new things in it, then you can claim on it. But there's still a lot of confusion around what can and can't be claimed. So it's important not to mix those two categories up, and age is not the be all and end all. So it's important to actually get a professional's advice, and that's where we can come in and actually look at a property. If it's a new property or a near new property, then you've got nothing to worry about. There will be a great depreciation claim on it. But if there's any doubt, we can have a look at the place and just check your history out with the property and give you an idea of what kind of deductions are available. So we'll look at this unit here. So this one, I suppose, sort of not exactly at the bottom end of the market, but it is a brand new unit, probably a decent bit of size to it as well. And you've got a scenario here where it is negatively geared. So that's fairly common for this type of property. Your expenses are outstripping your income there. And so over the first year of ownership, and that's the first full financial year, you're down to the tune of about $8,400, or to break it down a little bit, it's the equivalent of about $161 per week out of pocket to hold that property. Now, we'll look at two scenarios here very quickly. It's a lot of maths and I don't have time to go through it, but anything that you're not sure of, we are very happy to explain to you after the presentation, or if you want to get in touch with me directly, I'm sure we'd be able to send you the slides just to talk through them with you.
Yeah, absolutely. If anybody has any questions now or after, if you go away and think about it, let us know.
But in a nutshell, over on the left-hand side, because it's negatively geared, you're going to get a bit of a refund from that. It's a tax deduction, and if you're on the 37% tax rate, which is pretty common for investors, that loss there after the refund comes down to about $5,300. So instead of the $161 per week, effectively after taxes, it's costing you $102 per week to hold that. Over on the right-hand side, there's a depreciation claim, and it's just under $14,000, and that goes on top of your existing loss on that property to create a much bigger tax deduction. And so in that case, the refund is about $8,200, and effectively that means that it's costing you, after taxes, the equivalent of $4 per week to hold the property, i.e. claiming depreciation gives you the equivalent of $98 extra in your pocket. Now that is $98 extra in your pocket that you can reinvest, you can service your loan, or buy yourself something nice, but it is money that you have now. And so it is about generating cash flow from the property. There are a few scenarios there. So there's that new unit on the left-hand side, older houses. So again, remembering that key year of 1987, that older house there would have had a fair bit of work done to it to get that first full year deduction. But it's still entirely achievable for somebody to buy an old place, do it up and get a first year deduction of $5,600 there. And commercial properties as well, whether or not you invest in it, you might run your own company and you may have forgot to depreciate your fit out. So commercial properties, even tenants can claim depreciation, as opposed to residential properties where you don't see that very much at all. So it's always important to look for where the opportunities are. A couple of frequently asked questions that we get is, this one is still probably on a weekly basis. Actually, they both are probably at least on a weekly basis there. The second one, I've pretty much already covered it. As long as there's a substantial element of the property that's post 1987, at least get some sort of professional advice on it. Now, a lot of people also think that their accountant can do this because it's part of the tax return and they can do just about everything else. But the legislation's pretty specific that if any part of the construction needs an estimation, an accountant can't handle that. And in fact, accountants are our biggest referring sector. So it's quite common for people to make that assumption when they're buying, and then a year later, they go to do their tax return and their accountant says, well, no, you actually need a depreciation schedule. So investigating this is not only a way to sort of get in quickly and make sure that your material's ready for a tax return, but also it will help you work out your cash flow after your purchase in advance as well. So we have a few tools that will help you do that. So PropCalc is our fully functioning online cash flow calculator. You can put in a number of metrics about your property and it will give you an idea of the actual cash flow of it once all is said and done. My BMT is our online portal where you can retrieve your results, because that's another thing that happens every week is somebody calls in and says, can you send me my PDF again? Even accountants do that. For a bit of a basic idea, we do have a depreciation calculator you can play with, and all of this is available on our website and as an app download for both iOS and Android. The depreciation calculator will give you a rough idea, but if you want a specific idea, tailored to a particular property, give us a call or email into us, and we keep people up to date with all of the changes in the rules, because they do change a lot, in our newsletter that comes out. And that's got a few more case studies as well, like the one I gave before, just to kind of break it down for you. This is a quick look at my BMT. You might buy a property and update it over the years, and it's something that you can use to help you do that. You put in new carpet, upload the information, and we can start updating it. And you can also share it directly with your accountant there. We probably already deal with your accountant, and they might even have their own My BMT profile. And if you nominate them as your accountant, they'll be able to see it as soon as it's done. This is PropCalc. That's just the cash flow calculator I was talking to there. So you can see the figures, and we try to make it very easy to read, easy to use, and you can even use it to compare a couple of prospective properties side by side, or look at your own portfolio and get an idea of how they're performing against each other. So all of it, we try to do as much of it for you as possible, including arranging any inspections that are required. We don't outsource any part of that, so we are 100% accountable for your tax deduction. So a depreciation schedule is a legal document, and if you get audited, heaven forbid, we will be able to step in to back up our reporting, and that part of your tax return, you shouldn't have any worries about it. And a lot of the time, of course, we need to get in touch with the local council, review plans of subdivision, etc., on your behalf, and that's all part of the service of what we do. So that is pretty much the nutshell version of it. And again, I could go into a lot more detail. Any referrals via IRental do get a small discount on our normal fee there, and that's a standard residential property, single dwelling, where we need to go out and inspect it. So that covers the majority of investment properties there. Commercial properties and other scenarios like dual or multiple occupancy, we can quote that on a case-by-case basis. So that's about it. Of course, we do operate nationwide as well, and have offices in all states. So even if your portfolio is spread out all over the place, we can still help with them. And that's it.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Chris. Yeah, it's good to get a bit of an overview and a little bit more of an understanding. And I think it also shows that I think sort of as I was saying before, in real estate, there's so many different aspects of it that that's why there are these professionals out there in all the different areas, because to understand and know everything and do everything yourself, it's just not possible. So that's what we're all here for. We're all here to help and, you know, make your investments grow and grow your developments. So thank you so much to Amanda and Chris for taking your time out and creating some amazing content for us all. We will have another webinar coming up a little bit later in the year, and we're going to look at focusing a bit more on first home buyers and having a bit of a chat there. Some of those things are definitely going to relate to probably both Amanda and Chris. You know, so some of the stuff that they've spoken about tonight are definitely for first home buyers. We've just had another question. Oh no, that was Amanda just putting up the link. Cool. I did have just one last thing before we say goodbye and good night. I suppose as small businesses, we rely on you guys as our referrers, and as word of mouth is huge for us. And we'd love it if you could pop up a review for us, either on Google or a Facebook recommendation, and jump on and certainly like the pages for Amanda and Chris and things like that as well. It makes a huge difference to us and our growth and the way that we can get our information out there and help people. As you can hear, you know, all of us here, that's what we want to do. We just want to help people. That, you know, our hearts are at the center of everything that we do. So I hope you've really gotten some good information out of tonight, and thanks for coming on and having a watch and a chat with us. Yeah, we'll see you soon.
Thank you,
Bye.
Jacqui.
Thank you.
See ya.
See ya.